Yeah.
So you add the Tai Chi principle to the form of boxing. Now you have a much better form
Correct.
of boxing.
Correct.
And you can use these principles to make you a better person
Sure.
and a better fighter.
Sure.
But back in those days in China, there was a lot of fighting going on.
There was a lot of fighting
Not so much
everywhere.
with us here anymore, but the principle still works good.
Sure.
Sure.
Sure. There's a lot to be said in there is a lack of. I cannot stress the importance, quite frankly, of having something like the Tao in your life. And being able to take these high concepts like being through non-being and then applying them to the body so that you can then practice them in life. There is, without a doubt, this has got to, for me at least personally, it's got to be the best way to sort of approach your life. Because this isn't, there is no, you can't misinterpret this, right? If you can apply it to your body and you understand how it works to the body, then you very easily extrapolate that to the rest of the world.
I agree with that, in that it's a very good, high-minded philosophy to help you live life. And if you do apply it, life will be better.
Sure.
No question.
So over the weekend, I had a situation that came up that was, in many ways, very devastating. And, you know, the anger and the depression and all that, you know, crept up very quickly. It was instantaneous. Once mentally I was able to handle or to compute the scale by which things had gone awry. And instead of losing it, I almost immediately started thinking about, what does the Tao say? How do I apply Tai Chi principle? What am I missing here? And I couldn't think of it at the time. Absolutely could not think of it at the time. Because I was riled up. I was amped up.
Anger and rage take first hold.
Sure. And that's going to
response.
happen. That's a natural response.
Right.
It's a matter of what you do with it that matters. And that's where the philosophies come in. That's where your Tai Chi Chuan comes into play. And the one thing that always sticks with me is the idea of, do you have the patience to allow your muddied waters to settle? So when you're angry and you can't see straight, the only thing you have to do in that moment is nothing. Is to sit back and wait for the muddied waters to settle so that they're clear. And that's huge.
Heard you say that in class.
Sure. Because that applies, you can apply that to Tai Chi Chuan, right? Because as you're learning new moves and you're putting forms together and you're trying to mix and match the principles with the body, and as you're gaining flexibility and strength, but you're still, in the growing process. Do you have the patience?
So you felt anger and rage, but then the next thought was, let's still it and let the muddy water settle.
Well, the next thought, I couldn't get rid of the anger and rage. What it told me to do was nothing. Do nothing until the muddied waters clear. In this case, have to clear the anger, have to clear the rage, have to clear the depression, have to clear all of that initial strike that comes, those physiological effects that bad news or disasters have on the body, right? Think of it this way: when we say, "Oh, our nation was attacked," well, not really. You feel attacked. You have taken on the persona of the nation, and so if something happens to the rock that is the United States, it doesn't feel conflict, it doesn't feel anger, it doesn't feel rage. But the idea of being an American, the idea of having sovereignty, you feel that. That's what makes the nation real, as it were. So when you're getting hit with all that anger and all that, you're feeling it, that's real. The anger is real, the rage is real, all that's there. The key, at least in this case, was fine, have it. And I had it. I embellished it. I didn't do anything crazy, but I went and, I chatted it out. I kind of got it off my conscience of what I was talking about, and had a lot of bourbon. And but what it prevented me from doing was anything stupid. I knew that anything that I was going to do on that day, on those days, even into today, it's just me. It doesn't go out there. It's just right here.
That pause stopped
Right.
you from doing something you shouldn't do.
Right, which is, losing my mind.
But in the rage and the anger, you might not have stopped.
You're right.
You could have done something wrong and made it worse.
And that's why you have to practice these things. That's why you have to be, if you're practicing your Tai Chi Chuan every day, if every day you're walking in and you're settling, you're sinking, you're taking your time, you're exploring all these different moves, you're learning and struggling without being frustrated. You get better and better at not being frustrated. Now these are things you can apply to your life. And even when the rage comes and the anger comes and the hurt comes and the depression comes, you can still act. You don't react. You decide. And sometimes the difference between that, like when you're on when you're driving and you get cut off, the reaction could be, flipping the bird at somebody. Or even just that moment where you see someone cut you off and you think, geez, we could have gotten hurt, or maybe you just didn't want him to cut you off in line. So you feel anger, you feel some sort of way about it. But you can choose to just let that go. In that case, you can just, fine, whatever, breathe out and go back to whatever else you were thinking about. And it doesn't have to consume your life. And that's the difference between the catalyst, getting cut off, and the decision, letting it go, versus reacting, rah,
Right.
and maybe trying to cut them off and all that.
That could create bad
Correct.
worse. That would make it worse.
Correct.
I think it's right to let it go.
Sure.
But it's not easy.
That is not
you have to
easy
work at it.
at all.
You have to work at
And
it.
sometimes in big decisions, traffic is easy. In big decisions in your life, the extent of what you have to let go may be far more than what you know. And it seems like every time you turn a corner, you have to let go even more of something. When you thought you already let go of it, and you realize, no, you're still tethered to it. And there's something else that you have to let go of. And that makes and that is so hard to do. But the more you practice letting go, and the more you can recognize what you need to let go versus what you need to focus on, the easier it becomes. And that's why daily practice, that's why learning the Tao, that's why reading the Tai Chi classics, it all starts to, the better you know them, it all starts to make sense, and it all starts to fall into place for you. And you begin to apply the issues. For instance, we talked about pulling the tail of the bird, conflict resolution, and that was the source of what happened over the weekend. It was a conflict, right? And I started to go through the steps, expand out, clear out the white noise. What are we focusing on? What is the key thing? What are their issues? Get rid of them. Now focus. Pierce the topic for what it is. And after doing that, honestly, I realized I was looking at this situation from the wrong perspective. And so I came back, lifted it up into a new light. And what that new light showed me was that I shouldn't even be in this conflict. I need to distance myself even more than what I had already done before. There is no reason to invite that kind of thing if you don't have to. Does that mean letting go of things? Sure. It absolutely meant letting go of things, and meaning next time conflict comes, or I don't get my way, or a deal goes sour, it means I just eat it.
You took a step back and looked at it and saw a clearer image.
Correct.
You got rid of that rage. You let it go.
Yep. And realizing that the core of this conflict honestly has nothing to do with me if I don't want it to. Even though I am at the core of the conflict, to make no bones about that, it's not about me. It's only about me if I let it be about me. It needs to be about what it's actually about. And that means taking a big step back and figuring out what I need to let go, establishing boundaries, and really reminding myself that this is about me. That was the big thing that came out of this conflict. Taking care of oneself. Thank you for joining us for that clip of our weekly podcast. If you want to get more bonus footage or join us for the entire podcast, head on over to Patreon, where our Eagle, Tiger, and Dragon subscribers get access to not only what we cast and talk about, but advanced lessons in your forms, in your Tai Chi, and in your life.